How can you get a customer to buy more of what you have to offer? Make it seem like a jigsaw puzzle. By creating a gap in what your customers perceive as the complete set, they'll be more inclined to buy. Hi, I'm Bri Williams, the behaviour changer, and that's what we'll be discussing in today's clip. So, if you want to improve your cross-sell results, just do this. A few years ago, a supermarket chain ran a promotion that was one of the most successful in history. It was 2018 when the Australian supermarket chain Coles introduced their Little Shop to the cutthroat grocery market. The Little Shop referred to miniaturised plastic versions of common grocery items like laundry detergent, Nutella jars and Weet-Bix boxes. And the customers were given these trinkets as a reward for spending over $30. Over the course of the promotion, in excess of 30 million tiny plastic collectibles were distributed across the country. That's one for every man, woman and child in Australia. It was ridiculous. Hard-to-collect items were and still are sold on eBay and traded for firstborn children. Well, almost. Such was the frenzy that rival retailer Woolworths blamed the Little Shop promotion for its poor results. Now, there are a few psychological reasons behind the success of this campaign. One was scarcity, the fear of missing out. Some items were harder to get than others and were therefore seen as more valuable. Another was intermittent rewards. Like a lottery or Forrest Gump's box of chocolates, you never knew what you were going to get, and that was exciting. But the third, and perhaps less obvious, had to do with the topic of today's video: completion bias. Completion bias is something I've mentioned before, and it has to do with our drive to complete something once we've been given a start. For example, a car wash loyalty card that was pre-stamped with 2 washes influenced customers to return more regularly than a blank card that customers had to start from scratch. The same principle applies to work. We are more driven to return to a work task, for example, if we leave it unresolved. Keeping this completion bias in mind, it should be no surprise what the true secret of the Little Shop promotion was. A collector's case. A cardboard case in which you could store your 30 plastic treasures. The case was a touch of genius because it meant people had a visual representation for the collection. Until you had every one of those items, you could not complete your case. That psychological tension, that need to fill the gaps, drove many to keep shopping in the hopes they could complete it. You might be thinking, that's great for collectible trinkets, Bri, but what about my business? What does this have to do with cross-selling? Well, researchers have used this same drive for completion to stimulate customers to buy more. In one study, it was wine. In another, banking products. Let's take a closer look. Why not buy more? It's increasingly common in online retail for recommended products to be presented once a buyer selects what they want. In this study, the researchers wanted to know whether using the completion bias to present additional options visually would increase willingness to purchase. How did they do it? Using a Real Vineyards online site, they presented customers with a configurator that suggested products to buy. The range included sparkling, white and red wines, juice and grappa. Hey, it was an Italian vineyard after all. In the first condition, people were simply given a list of product categories from which to select, like sparkling wine and juice. In the second, this list contextualised beverages by stages of a dinner party, like a welcoming sparkling wine and red wine for the main course. In the third condition, the options were also represented as beverages to match stages of a dinner party, but a visual element was included to infer that there were 5 parts to the dinner. With each beverage selection, they completed 20% of the dinner's drinks menu. So, what happened? When presented with a product range sorted by varietal, 37.7% purchased a complete set of the products. When products were represented as a part of a dinner party program, this jumped to 55.7%, purchasing the complete set. But the group that received the suggestions along with the 5-part visual, a whopping 78.6% purchased the complete set of 5 products. This tells us that people like to cover their bases and, where it makes sense, complete a set of products. You can bank on it. Following on from this study, the researchers wanted to know whether completion bias could likewise be used in a different industry, in this case banking, and within a lapse of time, so not purchasing all at one time. This is how they went about it. Real customers of a German regional bank had different financial products suggested to them online, like insurance and loans. Some participants had their existing product, along with the remaining options, presented as text. Others had this product array represented visually as a jigsaw. And that's when things got exciting. People were much more likely to express interest in additional products when it was clear to them which pieces of the metaphorical jigsaw they were missing. And it wasn't simply because a visual was used. The visual worked because it showed the landscape of available options and marked out what was incomplete. This second study showed that not only can the completion bias effect work in different industries, but for decisions that have a time delay. Importantly, this banking study also showed that people only expressed interest in remaining products if all options were relevant. As soon as one was irrelevant, say, I don't need superannuation if I'm already retired, the completeness bias was moot. And if it makes sense to the customer to buy from one company. So, how do you use the completion bias to cross-sell? Well, that's what I share with my Just Do This members. In Just Do This, I tell you exactly how to use behavioural science in your business to get better results. From invoice design and knowing how to quote to designing your website and retaining staff. Just Do This covers all your bases. Find out more at briwilliams.com.